Hello and welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I am your guide and host through the show. And today I'm super excited to introduce our guest, Vija Williams. If you don't know her, she's a very, very big deal in the real estate industry. She has done so many things. It would literally take me minutes to go through her highlights. So I'm just going to give you a few of them, but to let you know kind of who she is in case you haven't yet been introduced to her. So she currently is the Chief Growth Officer of Realty.com. And prior to that, she was head of industry for Place and president of Ben Kinney Brokerages. She continues to be a real estate team leader, a trainer, a coach, a teacher, speaker. She has been all over this industry. She currently owns and runs Vija Real Estate, and this is a team of residential real estate agents, specialists really, who focus on the Seattle, Washington, and Puget Sound market. She's also the former co-founder of Her Best Life, which is one of the most successful women's real estate groups before leaving to launch She Incorporated, which was also a successful real estate women's collective. She hosted a show called Empire Building, which was Inman named the 2021 podcast of the year, 600,000 downloads within 2 years. Like, incredible. She's done a million things, and we are going to talk about, and by the way, she speaks all over the country too. She's spoken at Inman, she's spoken at Keller Williams stuff, EXP, Real, Zillow, and among many, many other events. So she is somebody that the experts go to when they need experts to talk. And so we are thrilled to have her. Vija, welcome to the show.
Thanks. That made me sound so fancy.
You are fancy. And,
Thank you. Well, I'm not really fancy, but
I think you're fancy. Give us your Instagram real quick.
Oh, Vija. So it's Vija. So my name is actually spelled Vija. Yeah. And the J is like a Y. So it's, like Tonya. Have you ever seen Tonya or Tanya with a J?
Sure.
So it's like Vija with a J. So it's Vija.
And we will have a link to that in the show notes. And by the way, since Vija is a speaker, a presenter, among a producer and team lead and all the other cool stuff she does, she has a lot of resources. So if you are looking for help around really any part of your business, reach out to her. She's got something for you, or she can direct you in the right way. She's just a really generous person that way. So please reach out to her. Okay. So I want to talk about just primarily, and not primarily, but first I want to talk about Realty.com, because this is a new, it's not a new website, but you are newer to the company, and this is a big deal. Inman wrote about how you are now, part of the company. And what's interesting about Realty.com, for those that aren't familiar, we're not talking Realtor.com, of course, different website there entirely, but Realty.com is really interesting because they are, one of the things they do is they do instant cash offers. And what's interesting to me about that is how many companies have tried this and not succeeded. And you guys seem to be succeeding. And I'm fascinated by this because Zillow tried it and they couldn't figure it out. And they have the best data on the planet. They lost hundreds of millions and they shut it down, 4 or 5 years ago. Curious, what do you think Zillow got wrong? And what did like people like you learn from seeing some of these other firms kind of try it and not make it?
Well, what's interesting is Zillow is actually doing it now. So it's such a great question, because I think it really leads into what we want to talk about today, which is, what does the agent, what does the real estate team really have to be in this post-AI age? What is it going to take to thrive and succeed? And it I would say that it starts here. It's kind of why I'm at Realty.com. And I'll tell you a story. I'll answer you the story. A couple of years ago, I was in Seattle, and I had a very full-time job as head of industry for Place. Place is a company founded by Ben Kinney, and the quick explanation is that we worked with really large real estate teams and ended up buying brokerage. They own a lot of entities now. So I was on the road all the time. I was on the road, twice a month, right? And so I was kind of a chief evangelist. That was kind of part of my role. And I didn't have a lot of time. But I had this team back here in Seattle with my brother. My brother and I were running this team. My brother also had another business. And, for all of our friends listening, you guys know running a real estate team is a full-time job. It is not a side hustle. You can't do it. It's just not by nature of it, right? It needs your full attention. And my friend called me who owns an iBuyer business, which is I think what you were referring to with
Sure.
Zillow. And he goes, "Hey, Via, we're gonna start bringing cash offer leads into Washington State. Would you be our guinea pig in Washington? We're gonna go up to 1.7 million sales price, and we haven't done this before. I mean, normally these kind of iBuyers were in like Phoenix, Atlanta, Charlotte. They were kind of in lower price point areas that had a lot of homogenous product." And so I was like, yeah, heck yeah, let's try it. And I just had this instinct that it's one of those things in times in life, like it changed my life having this instinct, but I had this instinct. I'm like, I just feel like I need to go all in on this. So I talked to my brother. I go, hey, can I take the reins on this? Can I grab a couple agents to be kind of our Navy SEALs squad, if you will, on this and just go to town? Can we spend some money, getting some of these cash offer leads? Do I have your blessing as my business partner, basically? And he was like, yeah. So I knew nothing. I knew nothing about these leads. Like I knew nothing about instant cash offers. I had never even, I barely knew what Open Door was, just because as much as I was traveling around, it just wasn't a thing. It just wasn't prominent, in my market or my world. So I start learning them and I start learning them. I'm on the phone. I remember being at events, like on my way to go on stage to speak, converting these leads. You know what I mean? Because I knew that if I didn't do it myself, I wouldn't be able to teach and coach and train on it. So we started crushing it. I think we were doing, a couple million in business a month just from cash buyer seller leads within 3-4 months. Took a couple months to ramp up.
Sure.
And then I ended up making some career moves. I left place and whatnot, and handed my team over to my brother. And I said, and so I kind of walked away from the team for a while. And in that process, began the process of forming a business with my business associate, Spring Benson. And in that process, I go, hey, I really have this feeling that if we want to be on the forefront of where the industry is going and where the consumer's going, I think we ought to talk to realty.com, not Realtor, realty.com. I think we ought to talk to Lance about maybe having them be our lead partner in this new business. So we started meeting with Lance, and I was passionate, I was enthusiastic, and I was like, this is what it takes, Lance. This is what it takes to make these leads work. They're different. You have to handle them differently. And as long as, you're open-minded and coachable and you tweak a couple of your approaches and a couple of things you do, these can change a business. I experienced it myself. And he's like, can I just hire you? And it just really worked well with the business I was forming with Spring and the other stuff I had going. It was perfect, really. I was kind of looking for my next thing. And it ended up changing my life, because every aspect of my empire has something to do now with cash offer seller leads.
Wow.
I restarted my team. I have a national network that I've got with Spring that is now affiliated with cash offer seller leads. I coach and consult teams and brokerages, and a large part of it is how to bring in a predictable, consistent lead source, a new lead source. Like when you're a team or a brokerage and it's like, all right, we just don't have enough inventory. We just don't have enough leads. I can literally help you bring in a brand new lead source, train you, give you everything you need if you've never done it before, from full stop none to, I have a team in Houston that we brought on about 4 months ago, had never done third-party leads. I think they're $120 million team. And for whatever reason, they just rocked it at prospecting. Like they just didn't bring in outside leads. And they were like, it's time. So they had never done internet leads, not even buyer leads. And we came in, they're at 12 deals in their first 4 months, 12 transactions in 4 months, right? I mean, he just texted me the other day. It's like, oh, we just double-ended a $1.2 million listing. Like, we can't get enough. Can we so we can deliver cradle to grave, a brand new lead source to an agent, to, brokerage, to a team, and teach them everything. So I love it. Like it's so much fun. And I personally experienced them. So, the story of how I got here is that What's
Yeah.
interesting though about realty, so Lance Custon, who founded it, was definitely ahead of his time. And I think it's why we're just now getting on the map with everybody. He was generating these long form fill cash offer leads 2 to 3 years ago before really anybody was doing it. And what I mean by long form fill is there's a million ways the leads come to us. We own hundreds of different URLs, right?
Sure.
Relocate.com, estimate.com, realty.com, texas.com. And through message boards, through pay-per-click, through a million different sources, they come in and a homeowner submits their name and they fill out a pretty long form. Why do you want to sell? They literally have to list a reason to move on. What condition is your house in? What do you think your house is worth? What's your time frame? What's your name, number, email? And so by the time a consumer fills out a really long form, by the way, for every question you ask somebody, this is just a tech thing. For every question that you ask a consumer, you lose somebody.
Oh,
So
100. I mean, this flies in the face of
mhm,
traditional lead
mhm,
gen, online lead
yeah,
gen, because it's like, do
mhm,
you ask for the last name instead
mhm,
of just the first name?
mhm,
You want to do
mhm.
traditionally, you want to think about as few lead
Few.
fields as possible. Yes, few.
Yeah.
But the with what you're talking about is you
You
want
know where we're
somebody
going with
in.
this.
Yeah, you want
Yeah.
somebody who is fully committed, because the
Mhm.
more they're committed to telling that story, the more likely they're going to be to
Yeah.
have that phone conversation. So
Yeah, so it can be 4 to
amazing.
9 questions depending on, like, how they come in, right? Different sites. And they're literally at the end giving their name, email, and phone number and saying, "Call me."
Yeah.
So they are extraordinarily high intent leads. We have a third party tracking them, 30% transact within 18 months. So there's a title change with a third of them. So basically, we have 150,000 consumers a month that are requesting a cash offer on their home with a long
Wow.
form fill with their name and number. By the time we dedupe, we title verify leads, all that stuff, we're running a net of 60 to 80,000 cash offer seller leads a month. So here's the difference between what Zillow was doing and here's what Zillow is doing. And here's where I think it's important for everybody here, because I don't want this to be a sales pitch. We are we already are the nation's largest ask aggregator of cash offer seller leads. If anybody, any of my friends listening, any of you start researching this, you will end up on us. So we're here. We're affordable. We can be $1,000 a month up to $25,000. I mean, Home
Sure.
Light's one of our clients. I mean, you name it. We can be small all the way up to large. They're $70 to $85 a lead on average with no referral fee. Like, they're really cheap leads. They're just great leads, right? They're seller long form fill leads, whatever. Here's what's interesting. Zillow actually is all of Zillow's seller leads right now are cash offer leads, just like this. I would say they're our closest one that's doing this. So actually, I think the real conversation, DJ, is that the consumer behavior is changing. And if 150,000 consumers a month are getting online, asking for a cash offer, the real thing is we are completely in a new role than we used to
Yeah.
be. We is the agent. And the way I explain it is, back in the day, I don't know, how long have you done this? Are you admitting this out loud?
So yeah, so I've worked at a brokerage for 15 years. So yeah,
Okay.
that's how long I've been
Pretty
doing it.
long. Pretty
Yeah.
long. I've been doing this for, oh my gosh, almost 25 years.
Yeah.
So long. And I'm a second generation. I mean, it's just my whole life, right? And this is what I know. What I know is kind of back in the day, a seller would decide to sell. They call an agent. They might call two, they might call three, but they call an agent. We come over, right? Give them a CMA, give it a marketing plan, yes or no. They're going to decide who they're going to hire. And yeah, there's for sale by owners, but for the most part, they're going to hire an agent,
Yeah.
right? The agent's going to put a sign in the yard. Okay. Now, when is the last time, any agent, anyone listening right now, because I've done this live and like there's maybe one hand that goes up and the one hand is like a 90-year-old person. When is the last time you guys have gone on an appointment and they haven't, at the very least, just looked at their estimate? If not,
Oh,
gotten on
of
ChatGPT,
course.
gotten on Claude, maybe looked at their Redfin estimate, maybe whatever. And I'm going to add now, ask for a cash offer on their home. So
Mm,
so here's the thing. We started off, the real estate agent started off as the first phone call. We are now the last opinion.
right.
So it's a totally different role. So the role we now play is, how do you come in after they've done all the research and translate what it all means, and present it to them and educate them and know more than them, have the better resources than them, and be able to solve their problems. How do you do that as an agent? At the end of the day, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, right? All we had to really do was be one-trick ponies, and we could just
Yep.
bring a sign, list their home. Now, if we don't really actively know 4 to 5 exits, we're probably not going to make it. So my hot take, controversial as it might be, is that the new modern post AI real estate agent can no longer just be a one-trick pony. We have to walk in and have 4, 5, 6 tools in our tool belts and be able to be a problem solver for a highly, highly educated consumer. I mean, the consumer, we've never seen data this public before. We've never seen so much data exposure, and we've just never had an educated consumer like this in real estate. They can see everything. And if y'all are not using Claude and ChatGPT, and I have not trained anybody who's not, I haven't trained any agents who are not at this point. They're shockingly good CMAs, as we all know, and granted, we're inputting well, we're giving it good prompts, we're steering that, right? We're steering that to make it good. And I mean, we have to learn how to get a lot of business as the last person that's helping them discern and decide what to do. We're not going to be their first call. So when you talk about, realty, cash offer leads and other things, I think what's interesting, DJ, I think the really interesting thing about it is that the consumer's not asking for an agent yet. When they request a cash offer lead, what they're asking for is a cash offer on their home. Most of them have not contacted an agent yet.
Right.
So you're getting in before they were ready to talk to an agent. You're now, see what I'm saying? You're now getting in during that time where they're Zestimating. They're looking at their Zestimate. They're doing all this exploration, because that's now the new consumer behavior. I'm thinking about selling my home. I'm going to get on my phone and my computer. I'm going to do my own research. Then I'm going to call an agent. And then the agent's going to either help me discern, or I'm going to discern based on all the information I have. So the new modern agent has to learn how to be in that role. And it's such a different role from what most of the traditional training is. Most of the traditional training is, we're going to teach you how to do a listing presentation that's 20 years old. Right. And it's just not like the agents that are crushing it. I interviewed this agent. I talk to agents all the time, as you can imagine. And I interviewed this agent last week, and she'd gotten 7 of our realty.com leads, and she has 6 agreements out of 7 leads. So I asked her team lead, I go, can I call her? Can I just pick her brain? So I start talking to her, and I go, what's your story? And she was like, she's just an amazing woman. She's a single mom to 4 kids. She's in Houston. And I won't share her name, although I have a feeling she would love me to share her name. She's just such an amazing human, but I won't. And she started telling me, she's like, I didn't even know what an iBuyer was until 4 months ago. I didn't know. She's like, I just double-ended that $1.2 million listing using a sub 2. She goes, I didn't even know what that meant 4 months ago. I go, well, how did you learn? She was like, combination of talking to my team lead and a lot of YouTube late at night after putting the kids to bed. I was just determined. I instinctually, she's like, I just knew that I had to learn all this stuff. And she goes, now I bring in a cash offer at every single one of my listing appointments, even if it's a spear referral. And I explained to them what their options are now. And it's just made me such a better agent. And so what I would say to you now is, the new modern agent needs 4 to 5 arrows in their quiver. It's just the way it is. We have to think about ourselves now as consultants and problem solvers, and just get used to that role, get comfortable with that role, and try to, with our marketing, usurp and get in before they're ready to call an agent. Be the first. The stats are still overwhelming. NAR and Sold both have data that shows that consumers are still 80% of sellers will hire the first agent they meet with.
Yeah, I always tell people your listing presentation doesn't matter, because they're only interviewing one person.
So with that, DJ, exactly. The trick is to try to get in before they were ready to talk to an agent.
Right. And they're going to go with whoever the agent is. Yeah. Yeah.
Typically. And so, whether it's us, right, whether it's realty.com, whether it's, myriad of different things, I think the new modern post AI agent is the one that's really looking at their marketing and going, okay, what's the consumer behavior? What can my content look like, where I'm going to start attracting and I'm going to start getting in before they naturally are going to start calling my competition, right? And, what can I say? What can I do? You have to have home valuations on your website. You have to have some kind of a home bot type report going out. You have to be able to track when they open it. You really should be having like top 5 things to make your house sell fast, or
Yes.
top 5 paint colors of the hottest listings of the year. You have to start having that stuff so that you can start looking at their patterns. Okay, they're starting to download. They're starting to view the report more. You need to have probably AI on your CRM to tell you that, hey, their behavior, their algorithm starting to look like they're in seller buyer territory. Then you can start sending them things like, hey, do you want to explore what a cash offer would look like on your property? Because you as the agent have the power to partner with. There's iBuyers in every market in the United States now.
Yes.
So all of you guys can partner with, and I don't want to promote particular companies, but it's so easy. All of us can partner with them. And how it works, guys, is the iBuyer, you work with the iBuyer, they come in and buy the property. Some iBuyers will pay you for that first transaction. All of them will pay you when you list the home and list it on behalf of the iBuyer. So I shouldn't say all of them. There's some that actually only pay on the first transaction. There's a million different versions of it.
Yeah.
All of you guys have that capability no matter what market, right? So if you really start looking at what you need to do and who you need to become, that's what it is.
I think this is such a interest. It's something I never thought of before. I understood what iBuyer companies were, but
Mhm.
you guys are sort of going a little bit in a slightly modified direction, which is really quite clever, because you're right. Once they have the listing appointment with an agent, the NAR data shows that they're getting most likely the listing, and you're coming in before they make that call, and you're still getting the lead to an agent, and you're
Mhm.
saying, hey, because you're right. Who doesn't want to know? Look,
Mhm.
we all look at our Zestimate. We ask
Mhm.
ChatGPT what the value of our home is currently worth. We're always looking at what we think our home is worth, and it is kind of a fun experiment just to go, oh, I wonder what somebody would offer me right now, without having to go
Yeah.
through, the
Yeah.
entire process, right? And
Mhm.
so what's brilliant about this is you're getting to that person before they get to an agent, but they're
Mhm.
getting to an agent in a
Yeah.
different way. And so
Yeah.
that you're right, like finding investors like the iBuyers, that's the easy part. Like there's so many people that will partner with you to purchase homes. And I'm curious, what now, do you guys have data on what percentage
Mhm.
of the people that close
Yep.
are taking the
Mhm.
fast cash? Like, is there, because I suspect it's probably not, it doesn't probably matter to you guys, but I'm curious of like what percentage are actually, because I would just want to know whether I took it or not. I'd want to know what you guys could get me, right? So
Totally.
that's
And
what I
that's the
always want.
question.
Yeah.
That really is a question. So there's a couple answers. I was going to say that anyway, so I'm so glad it's perfect that you asked me that. The best data we have actually comes from Zillow Offers, the brief period of time. And what you were referring to earlier is Zillow became the iBuyer. For
Right.
a brief period of time, they became the iBuyer, which is different from generating seller leads this way. Very
Right.
different, right? We are not an iBuyer.
You guys are a
And
lead gen
Zillow,
firm. Yeah.
we're just
Yeah.
lead gen.
Yeah.
Zillow, same with Zillow now.
Which, by the
Back
way,
then,
very smart business to be in, because all you have
mhm,
to do is one thing and
yeah.
not everything. Yeah.
You guys, there's so many iBuyer companies. You guys could all go register right now.
Right.
Right now, with there's one in my head that is literally in every market in the US. And but there's other ones, I work with one that's in like 12 or 15 markets. They're the ones that I started with in Seattle. All you do is register for them, you get trained, and then they generate offers instantly for you, and you show up, and you can bring them to every single one of your listing appointments, just so you
Sure, of
know. But
course.
going back to what you're saying, because it's a really interesting question. So we have, in our case, 150,000 consumers, homeowners, I should say, requesting cash offers on their home every month. So the question is, what percentage of those are cash offers? And so as a tech company, obviously, we only have access to our clients' data if they give it to
Right,
us.
right. You're
You
not
know what I
seeing the
mean?
entire transaction
Yeah.
necessarily. Yeah.
So when I started in December of 2025. And when I started, one of the first things I started doing was getting feedback loops so that we could start tracking that. So we are in the process of tracking it. And the only public data I could find was Zillow, because they're a publicly traded company. And Zillow published that about 5% of their total offers ended up as cash offers. And you know what the data is? It's 5%.
Yeah,
That
it
is
makes
really
sense.
the number. When and what's interesting is I have a couple teams that are super investment heavy, meaning they have really strong relationships with investors. They have a thriving off-market and investment divisions, and they do slightly higher just because you're always going to convert what you know, and that they're just getting more people on the front end. They're just stronger converters because their team vibe and their team culture is so investment heavy, if that makes sense. But for the most part, it's right around 5%. So said another way, it's like 1 out of every 20 leads. And I train a lot on this, and it's really interesting because you can hear them right away. 95% of these are listing leads, right? And I'm not trying to say this to shill and to sell realty.com leads. What I want you guys to hear is that a lot of these lead sources aren't about the lead source. It's about understanding the new consumer behavior, getting them to raise their hand, hey, come help me solve my problem, and you inserting yourself to solve their problem. We're just using realty as an example. I just don't want everybody to think that we're, because it's the best example. It's such a good example and puts it all together. Like, the consumer is doing a whole bunch of research before they call a real estate agent. So how can you as a real estate agent, how can you as a real estate team leader, how can you get in there and get in the get in the consumers, get on the phone with them, get in front of them before they would naturally call that agent? Well, you have to have a compelling offer, and you have to have tools in your tool belt to do that. So you can generate your own cash offer leads too. You can do direct mail. You could be really strong on social media. You could buy ads. It's cheaper to buy ours, which is why most people end up, most people are like a $75 a lead. They're like, but there's a lot of people that do ours, and they're also generating their own too. The point is, look at what the consumer is doing. Do you have home valuation on your website? Do you have really good automation? Do you have a really compelling reason for them to register, right? So really asking yourself, every time you're at an open house, every time you add people to your database, are you being really strong in making sure that they're registering, that they're opting in so that you can send them home valuations? They all want to know how much their home is worth, right?
Sure.
So the way to look at it, when I'm teaching, if you can visualize a pyramid, I do a pyramid of intent. And on the very bottom, the highest intent possible is I want a cash offer on my home right now. That's the highest intent you can
Sure.
get. But the top one is home valuation leads. And, I used to work those back in the day when that was all we had, where someone, just because someone wants to know how much their house is worth doesn't necessarily mean that there's a high intent to sell right at the moment.
Right. It
But
might just be a general interest of curious.
everyone kind of wants to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, then, okay, how often are they checking it? That starts looking like a little bit more intent. Like, okay, they're starting to check it. Now, are they starting to download my articles my articles are pretty blatantly, I'm getting ready to list, right? Are they saying, hey, I have the top 5 most, value laden movers or painters or junk removal guys in the market. Let me know if you want that list. Right? There's certainly clues that they start moving down that pyramid. Then you kind of get the I'd be cash offer curious people who are like, oh, I'm not really in a hurry. I'm not really sure, but I'm kind of curious. Then there's the I want a cash offer on my home. My time frame is ASAP or 3 months, and I have, I'm getting a divorce, or I'm moving out of state, or I inherited this property, right? And we get those all the time. I just posted, if anyone checks my Instagram, I just posted a text I got from our onboarder. He goes, man, I just onboarded someone, and within 2 days they had an $800,000 appointment, and it's a buy sell because it's just, it can happen very, very fast. And sometimes you get nurtures because they truly were not ready to talk to an agent. So it's all over the place. But I think the big lesson is in the paradigm shift. And I was speaking with a whole bunch of agents here in person, live event in Seattle Friday. Everybody was nodding. They're like, oh my gosh, you're right. And I was like, you guys just have to learn more tools. You have to get comfortable with this whole new reality. And all of my old timer friends, I am one of them, almost 25 years I've been doing this. And, I just kind of 2 years ago, I just had this instinct. I was like, I've got to embrace this. I've got to embrace this whole new world. I can't be this old school. All I do is list homes. You got to open yourself up. There are other ways to do business now. You can do fractional, purchases. You can do a lease purchase. There's a whole bunch of ways to solve the consumer's problems now that we didn't have. And it's really important that we learn them and we know them better than the consumer, and that we become their resource so that they trust that we're going to bring them the best options and that we're going to give them a lot of options. Otherwise, if they don't trust us, they're going to think they can do it better themselves. They won't hire you. It's a whole different role, DJ, that we're in.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm thinking that if I'm an individual agent, this is again another arrow for the quiver to bring in and say, well, we have a couple of options. We can go the traditional listing route, and here's one way to do it. And we have these immediate, people that need to get their home sold more quickly, or just are looking for a particular price point, and maybe the iBuyer can get there. And again, just offering something the other agents don't. But I'm also thinking, if I'm a team lead, is a whole nother revenue stream, line of revenue stream, which again, only maybe 5% of the time will convert to an actual iBuyer sale, but that's not really the point, right? And so this is an opportunity for you as a team lead to really add additional team members and bring people in. So Vija, this is, if anyone is interested in getting more understanding about working instant iBuyer leads or instant valuation kind of leads, what's the best way that they should reach out to you?
They can through my Instagram, or I mean, you could reach out to realty.com and get on our website. I work with teams and brokerages. We have a great team that works with individual agents at Realty. And there's a lot of trainings. You don't have to know anything. You don't have to know anything. I think that my message to team leaders is that we can deliver an entirely new leg on your lead gen stool, cradled, and brokerages. We work with a lot of brokerages. Brokerages are actually our largest clients, our largest enterprise clients, because we don't just sell leads, we sell them a training system, and so we're able to train it all. And so it's really cool to be with a company that's doing that. And again, I don't want to make this sound like in fact, you and I didn't really plan this. We didn't really plan for me to come on and do all this. So I'm sensitive to overselling from the pulpit, so to say. But I will say that, I got to this role and I got here purely from, I didn't come here and then start preaching. I was preaching this and seeing this 2 years ago.
Right.
And came to the role because of that. So I am pretty passionate about it because it just slapped me in the face. I was like, this is a completely new way of thinking about our roles, thinking about ourselves. And I'll be honest with you, in a vulnerable moment, I don't know if any of you guys have felt this way, but there was a time kind of a year ago where I was a little discouraged. I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't want to believe all the hype, but like, all this AI and everything, like, are we going to really be usurped? And in working through all of this and working with literally thousands of agents and teams, I am more excited than I've ever been. Cause I'm like, there is a huge role for us. It's just a different role. We now come in and we discern, and we provide resources, and we provide knowledgeable education about the pros and cons and trusted partners and, all of it. So as long as we embrace being the best at, giving information and discerning what to do and understanding who, what the pitfalls are going to be before they hit them. Because by the way, when I'm working with clients now, I can say, here's what's going to happen. The offer is going to come in. It's going to, I just know 3 steps ahead.
Sure.
Right. So I can counsel them through it. And so there's really, no hiccups. If they went and did it by themselves, it would be a whole different experience than them doing it through me or people that I train. So it's a big deal. I mean, it's a really big deal to view ourselves this way and to view ourselves differently and to say, as long as we can embrace this new identity, we can thrive.
Well, Vija, thank you so much for coming on our show and talking about this. This is a huge thing that is going to really help agents sort of differentiate themselves from other agents, offer an additional, exit strategy, as you said, for sellers, and also just serve the need of people who wanting to know what's my home worth and what could I get for it right now. So on behalf of our audience, thank you so much for coming on. For everyone else, reach out to Vija if you are interested in learning about this. being trained on it, how it works, what the best practices are. She works with the best teams in the country, helping them do this, and she's done it herself. So reach out to her. Via, on behalf of our audience, we say thank you. On behalf of Via and myself to the audience, we say thanks for making it to the end of the episode. Follow her on Instagram. We have her link in the show notes, and we'll have her contact information as well. Reach out to her. And Via, thank you so much. We will see everybody on the next episode.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.